Evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and what I'm going to talk about tonight is getting some politics, some social topics, and I really want to focus this on the left. The left in this country has got some big problems. And I know there are a myriad of individuals talking about Charlie Kirk. Now, first of all, let me talk to you black people first. A number of you black people, and I've heard some YouTubers who don't even have anything to do with politics. They're trying to come up with their own opinions to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, Charlie Kirk was a conservative CEO for Turning Point USA. And some notable people in that organization are Brandon Tatum and Candace Owens. Now, for a number of black people out here, you need to do some research on what went on because there are a number of you who don't have a clue or anything to do with politics. You're getting your information from other individuals, particularly white liberals. And I'm seeing a lot of these small clips come from TikTok. This is why they need to take social media off the air because a number of individuals cannot handle it. Now, when you look at this individual, this Tyler Robinson, this 23-year-old, what the left is claiming, they're claiming that he was a MAGA guy. No, he was not a MAGA guy. He actually went to Utah State where he got indoctrinated by the college, and he has a romance with a trans woman. Now, if you look at who's really doing the violence, and I'm going to call it out right now, it's a lot of your individuals who are trans. It's a number of individuals who are leftists, and these are young white males. Now I'm gonna tell you black people something, and shout out to Minister Japp for saying this. You're not ready for this kind of war. You're not ready for this. See, you go against each other in the hood. And many of you're not going to be able to hit anything from 4 feet, let alone 200 yards, which is 600 feet. But a number of you are coming up here with liberal talking points. Now, I know who Charlie Kirk was because I listen to a lot of conservative talk radio, and my politics is center right. So I already know who he was. But the bottom line is you have a number of people who are parading around that the man is dead. Now, what if somebody went on to CNN and gutted Abby Phillips like a fish, or put a hole in Roland Martin's head? You'd have a lot of people out there. It'd be another George Floyd times 3. Now, the problem with politics today is the left, and it's the left in this country, the left, your trans group or your rainbow group, and a number of you Antifa individuals, and a number of you are very militant. You're talking about fascism and Nazism. Well, you don't know who the real fascists are? It's you guys. Because you want everybody to hear what you have to say. However, you don't care what the other side has to say, but you're blaming the other side for the violence and for fascism. The other side hasn't done anything. See, you lefties out here, You don't like the traditional way that America used to work. You don't like the patriarchy. You don't like families. You don't like kids. You don't like business. You're the ones who are the anarchists. You want no rules, but you want to be able to bully everybody else. And let me tell you something, people aren't afraid of you. In fact, you just made Charlie Kirk a martyr. Because you know why? When you knock off one, it's going to be 10, 100. It's going to be more to follow. Yeah, you have your Andrew Tates out there. You have your, and I'm not a real fan of Nick Fuentes. I mean, you talking about racist? He's a big racist. But you have guys like that out there. And then it's going to take the right. You got people like Brandon Tatum. He's going to step into that spot that Charlie Kirk vacated. It's going to be different. Now, you don't have to agree with what a person says, but to take their life, that's a coward. Now, if I were the shooter should have done what the trans woman did when he shot up that church with children. She just put the gun on himself. The same with that individual who shot up children in Nashville. Put the gun on yourself. I mean, you're already a coward. And when I looked at the footage myself, this was planned. And I believe there are other individuals in this. Now, he used to be a hunter. And I'm going to tell you something. And I lived in the country. In fact, I live here in Indianapolis. I was up in LaPorte when I worked for DNR. Back in 2019, I got out there on the range with the white boys. Shot a little bit. These guys know how to work a gun. I was with them on the range, prone position. And these are country boys. They were hitting some long range shots. And then what did they do after they used the firearm? They cleaned it. Now, with this Robinson guy, yeah, he had a direct hit, but he still made mistakes. You see, when you commit a crime, you're always gonna leave some DNA if you don't cover it up. Now, Utah does have the death penalty. Now, I believe that these events should have more and more security. And that would even go for the left too. Although the left is the most violent out there. And see, the reason why the left is the most violent, because nobody wants to deal with the left's delusional values. I mean, everything they talk about caring about people. They don't really care about black people. This is why they like to go to the most dysfunctional black people, because they want to keep black people poor. It's just like I was reading something today about slavery. You hear black people talk about slavery. The first legal slave owner we all know back in the 1600s was Anthony Johnson. That's a fact. You go look it up for yourself. And Anthony Johnson, he had an indentured servant working for him. The court about it and won. So white folk weren't the only ones who had slaves. In fact, and I'm going to go I said social topics too. We'll talk about other topics as well. You also had some Arabs. They had 400 Africans, and this is recent, as slaves as well. And the problem with black people, they keep talking about slavery. Many black people have never even been in slavery. They don't even know what slavery is. Now, of course, there was Jamal Bryant, that pedo. I'm not going to call him a pedo, but he was messing with one of his individuals at the church. And he was mentioning something about comparing Martin Luther King and Kirk. Well, you can't compare them. Two different times. Kirk was trying to instill a conservative movement within these colleges because a lot of these colleges brainwash these kids. You look at Tyler Robinson, he was brainwashed in college. That's why he did what he did. I mean, inscribing fascism. They keep mentioning fascism. And what happens is that goes to the media and they hear it from the media. Trump is fascist. Trump is Nazi. And they believe it and they act on it. And then you have a number of these individuals who are sitting in their mama's basements playing these games like Call of Duty. And they look at that as something being in the real world. But when it comes to politics, we can have opinions on it. But like I said, a number of you blacks who never even knew or heard of Charlie Kirk, stay out of it. In fact, some of you YouTubers, you can have an opinion on it, but go back to doing your relationship videos. That's your niche. Stay out of politics. You don't know anything about politics. Now, people like me do know about politics and Tito and Machismo. This is what we do. And I look at the news every day. And a lot of news out here that you're hearing from the mainstream media is fake. And what the mainstream media is trying to do, the mainstream media and the colleges. And remember, I told you about the 5 power conferences of society? And if you don't know what they are, I'm going to go over them again. You're dealing with media, government, jobs, religion, and education. And the left controls all of them. This is why they can spew that rhetoric out. Now, the only reason, and I heard somebody on YouTube say that the only reason why Trump won is he got a lot of the young vote. Yes, Charlie Kirk had his influence on the young vote. But what he did not mention was there were a number of blacks, black men who voted for Trump. You also had over 50% of Hispanic men vote for Trump. And of course, white men. And then you had white women. And this is what I'm talking about, politics. And we have to stop looking at conspiracy theories. There's no conspiracy. This was organized. The gentleman knew what day Charlie Kirk was going to be given his debate speech. Now, if he said something you don't agree with, don't listen to it. I don't agree with anything that the left says. But am I willing to listen? Yes, because they could have a point if they knew how to back up their points. But too many points that the left makes, they're all emotional, they're all delusional, and they're all unrealistic. And this is why the left is upset. Because here in America, and I don't care what anybody says, we are still more or less traditional. And that's a fact. We don't believe in DEI. What I mean by DEI, I call DEI quotas. Now, when I say diversity, equal opportunity, and inclusion. Not diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what you need to understand is that equity means, well, let's say if I had a guy that's 6 feet tall, and he can look over a fence that's 5 feet tall. And then I had another guy who was 4 feet tall. He can't see over the fence, 5 feet tall. So, what equity is, we're going to take something from that guy that's 6 feet tall, and we're going to add something to the individual that's 4 feet tall. Maybe take a, we're going to add 3/4 of a foot. Or let's make it a better number, 7 feet tall. So you have a 5 foot fence, and you have a 4 foot guy, and you have a 7 foot guy. Well, what's going to happen is this. We want to bring the 4 foot tall guy up to where the 7 foot tall guy is so they can both see over the fence at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some height from the 7 foot guy and bring him down to a height where he can still see over the fence. And then we're going to add some height from the 7 foot guy to the 4 foot guy to where he can see over the fence. That's called equity. In other words, you have two people who start out differently but end up with the same result. That's equity. That's not realistic. Now, when it comes to equal opportunity, if I have a 7 foot guy who can already see over the wall and a 4 foot guy who can't see over the wall, but the 4 foot guy wants to see over the wall, well, in order to give him an equal opportunity, the 4 foot guy is going to create something so we can see over the wall. He has to do more work, but he has an equal opportunity to see over the wall just as the 7 foot guy does. He just has to do more work. That's what equal opportunity is. But when we deal with politics, we're basically dealing with individuals out here who want everybody to get a trophy. You can come in first, you can come in last. You get the same trophy. That's what the left wants in this country. They don't have any policies. And the left wants us to like their way of thinking. But the left's way of thinking is not realistic to what most of us think. So you have the rainbow community. They want us to agree with their lifestyle. But the ones who are doing most of the hate right now and most of the destruction, the rainbow community. We all know it. And of course, you have individuals on the left. They don't know how to solve any problems because they have a lot of mental issues. Now, it's funny how I hear mental issues on YouTube now, because back in 2017, 2018, it's one of the YouTubers that brought up the diagnostic statistical manual #5 about mental disorders. Go back and see a number of my videos. I brought up hysteria. I brought up deviancy. I brought up all that. People tend to forget that. I'm the one that basically put a lot of these mental health issues on the map. And those videos are still up. I talked about sugar. I talked about health, eating breakfast, talked about everything. But now you're hearing mental health. I talked about that almost a decade ago. And see, what we need for some of these individuals, we need to bring back the crazy house. Because what's going to happen is this. With Charlie Kirk again, There'll be more of them out there. And I'm sorry, guys on the left, you're not going to be able to stop everybody. You can bring all your Antifas out there, because Antifa stands for anti-fascism. But you know, Antifa's fascists themselves. They call themselves anti because that can go to the media. And the media, see what the media does, and I just want you all to understand this. The media basically sends all their information out to low IQ people. And if you look at social media today, social media has a lot of low IQ people of all races. You have individuals who are looking for clicks and likes. They're dancing on Charlie Kirk's grave like it's funny until something happens to them. And when we look at the statistics out here, there's a lot of black on black crime out here. Some of the books probably are doctored. And I know when it comes to black on black crime, about 8 out of 10 black on black crimes are never solved. That's what has never been told. And see, now I will say this to Chicago, and Chicago is going to keep its Chirac reputation because now Trump is deciding to go to Memphis, Tennessee. And you know, the Democrats are already upset at the black mayor who's welcoming the National Guard into his city. And see what the Democrats want to do, particularly the white liberals. And this is where you black people, you need to really understand this. These white liberals are using you. They're using you to do the work for them. They don't care anything about you. They want you to keep talking about race and slavery, because they know you're stupid. But you don't know that. And some of you conservatives out there as well, some of you guys need to, I'm talking about black people, you need to get engaged as well. Because, see, the problem with black people, you're trying to get yourself in something that you have no business getting into. Black people, we don't even have any power. Yeah, we might control cities, but if we really controlled cities, our cities would be better. Remember, in a lot of these cities, you have a lot of white liberals who live in these cities as well. And with Chicago, you had white people that elected Brandon Johnson as well. People forget that. And all these cities, because they have a lot of the population, they're controlled by liberals. All your media is in the liberal cities. And see, the leftists, and you know, Utah, going out there to Utah is a Mormon state, very, very conservative. But again, the media is making this guy out to be, oh, he was a Republican. First of all, if I'm a MAGA or a Republican, why would I want to take out somebody on my team? It's not true. But too many people who watch the mainstream media think it's true. And in the end, this is what I'm talking about, low information voters. Now, again, we can have different views. And I saw a lot of Charlie Kirk's videos. It was pretty peaceful with some of those knuckleheads that were trying to go against him. Now, this man is 30-something years old, 31 years old when he passed. But he certainly read a lot of books. Probably read Saul Alinsky. You remember some other individuals, Bill Ayers. And see, that's what's going on. And black people, what these white liberals are trying to do, they're trying to get you into a racial war. You're not ready for it. I don't care how many gangsters you have out there. You're not trained for this kind of fight. You're not. You're not even trained to be in this fight with Charlie Kirk. This really isn't our fight. We got other issues we need to worry about. Now, Charlie Kirk had some views. I didn't agree with all his views. I didn't. But he didn't have to get taken out by a 30-06, which is a hunting rifle. I mean, that's what you use to knock off a buck with, a 30-06. And see, no black person would be able to even make that kind of shot. Because, hey, a lot of you gangsters, you can't even shoot somebody close up. You talking about war? And see, these white liberals, black folk, and I'm just looking out for you, and I'm black just like you are. You don't have any power, but they want to use you. I mean, you look at people like Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger, if you look at Planned Parenthood, it's in all the black communities. Because Margaret Sanger was the biggest racist. But you think these liberals really care about you? These liberals don't care about you. They're using you. They're using you to do the bidding for them. And they know you're disposable. You know, when I hear these liberals talk about abortion, I think a lot of these white women are getting abortions. Yeah, they're getting them too. Let's see what the white liberals want. They want, on one hand, a black woman have as many babies as she can, live off the system, to be impoverished, to create more criminals. But then they also want abortion to help decrease the population of blacks. And these liberals always bring up race. And see, that's what's happening. When I heard everything come out last week about Charlie Kirk, because I just walked home and heard that he had been shot. Then overnight, it was last Wednesday, found out he passed from that wound. But then it started to become a racial issue. And you have pastors out here like Jamal Bryant. And shout out to Ringo, which I'm looking at his videos again. He brought up some good stuff. And there's this guy out here who Ringo used to listen to, New Breed. New Breed was calling Charlie Kirk's wife a Jezebel, said her speech didn't mean anything. See, this is what's wrong with people. They're either dancing on this individual's grave and they don't care about his wife and children. I actually saw a black woman who said, fuck his wife and children. Well, no, fuck you. Because the same people who talking, it's funny with you liberals out there. Some of you said what you said online. And now guess what? Yeah, you had a guy that went out there with a 30-06 and shot a well-known conservative guy. And then you had a number of you who got online espousing it. And guess what? You had some people who were conservative, and probably had some individuals who were also liberals. Because one thing about liberals tend to eat each other as well. But you had some people who didn't agree with you liberals out there. Guess what? They found out who you are. They doxed you. And you lost your jobs. It's going to be more of you losing your jobs. Because although we have the freedom of speech, there's also consequences behind what you say. And employers, they have a reputation. You see, it's freedom of speech, but there is a policy of what you can do online. And some of these employers, they actually check out your Facebook page. They check out your Twitter page if you have one. But see, a lot of you lefties, you didn't know that. You thought you were going to get away scot-free. And now I'm seeing a number of videos up there with individuals who are online right now crying that they lost their jobs. Well, it's good for you. Karma's a bitch. And a number of you liberals stepped in it. You don't think that there's going to be any type of retaliation after you knocked off one of the conservative big boys? You got to be kidding, especially when it comes to whites. Now, will tell you this. It is true, and I'm going to say this. White people might not want to hear this, but everything that white people have touched, everything, they took it and they destroyed it. They've taken over some of the countries in Africa. Come here. They stole a lot of things, stole a lot of ideas. And this is not false. And yes, does racism still exist? Yeah, but it's not like it used to be. But blacks did have businesses, doctors, and there were more areas in the United States than just the Tulsa, Oklahomas. We only know Black Wall Street. Yeah, you had your low-class whites that destroyed it. Because the number of black people, they weren't on. You know, I was looking at the Emmett Till story. Had more black men in that house been on, white boys wouldn't have gotten in that house. But even the black men, big black men, they didn't have any power. And see, that's what white men did. They knew how to fearmonger. And this is what the media is doing. The media is utilizing gaslighting and fearmongering. And it's amazing because see where the Democrats just fucked up is we're getting close to the midterm elections. Let me tell you something. The Democrats are creating a lot of footage for themselves. Now, the only people who are going to vote for Democrats are the stupid people. Now, I don't think the Republicans are great because they need to do a little more fighting. They need to pass some better legislation themselves. But when it comes to crime, the Republicans seem to be better. But even that, you have some of the Republicans still, I don't trust them. They're going against Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, see, there's no heir apparent on the left of Donald Trump. Now, Gavin Newsom is trying to mimic Donald Trump, but you can't mimic somebody authentic. It's not going to be the same. And I'll give you an example. When I hear music, there was a version called This World Is Mine. Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye did the first version. And then Cheryl Lynn and Luther Vandross, they did the second version. Well, I'm going to tell you this. When I hear both versions, the Cheryl Lynn version and the Luther Vandross version cannot beat the original version at all. Now, I'm going back to music again. Creedence Clearwater Revival, believe it or not, did a song called Proud Mary. But you know who made the first version of Proud Mary? Tina and Ike Turner. Now, Tina and Ike Turner's version had a little bit more soul to it. But because a lot of the radio stations played a lot more white music, most people only knew about the Creedence Clearwater Revival version. And it's just like I heard it through the grapevine. Well, people only believe that there were only two versions of I heard it through the grapevine. wrong on that as well. From what I know, there were four versions. And I'm going to tell you what four versions they are. You had Marvin Gaye. His was 1968. Then you had Gladys Knight. She had a version out. I believe that was 1967. And then in the late 60s or early 70s, guess what? People don't know this. Creedence Clearwater Revival, known as CCR, had a version. But that's not it. There was another version of I Heard It Through the Grapevine back in 1981. Roger Troutman of Zach. There are four versions. And see, the only way I knew that is I researched it and I've heard all four versions. And see, this is what's going on in this country. We have a number of individuals just getting up here, just talking shit without any facts, especially in the black sector of YouTube. And it's a lot of the black women, maybe some black men. Like I said, black people, and shout out to Mr. Fantastic for saying this, many black people, they don't know anything about politics. But I do want to give a shout out to Brother Tito, Gizmo TV, Ringo TV, been doing pretty good, Ringo. We've been listening to your shit on the circuit here. You're putting it down. Like how you went in on New Breed. Salty Balls. The contractor, he's still out there. And of course, my main man, Mr. O from Chicago. Guys, keep doing what you do. Keep that news up. Because in the end, we need more information. Bottom line, when it comes to the Charlie Kirk situation, it's unfortunate. But it's not the first time it happened. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, both of the Kennedys. I believe it, Gandhi, yeah, he went down too. Some other people. And sometimes being a leader, you put yourself out there, you're the target. And you're the target to what? To scare the followers. But here's what happens. You think you scare the followers, but now you create a larger mass. And see, with these lefties out here, they don't really understand what they've gotten themselves into. You see, what the lefties want to make all this in is an identity war, a racial war. This is why they want to get blacks involved. You see, I will say this, black people, you've been too darn inclusive because the civil rights movement was valid, but you let other groups, the rainbow community, you let the feminists, not even letting the so-called brown people. I never hear the brown people say to brown and black people, but I always hear the brown people say why the blacks aren't helping us. And see, that's the problem. Black people don't want that power because the white liberal wants the black people to stay on the plantation. That's why they use the buffer niggers like Roland Martin, Don Lemon, keep you in line. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to be like me or Will Johnson or my boy Nate or Gizmo T. They don't want you to be like that. In fact, people like me, people like Ringo, and there are other ones out there. were called coons. But you know who the real coons are? The real coons are you plantation niggas. That's who the real coons are. And like I said, if the same thing happened to somebody on the left, that's just as bad. And from what I saw Charlie Kirk do, he wanted dialogue. He wasn't looking for a fight. He wanted dialogue. Now, he won most of his arguments because he did most of his reading because a lot of college students are indoctrinated. I know. I went to college. I dropped out of college a few times as well, especially when I battled with professors. I wanted to knock a professor out. Had too much of a bad temper when I went to college first time. Went nose to nose with a professor. Closed the door and we were going to go at it. Yeah, this was at Virginia Union. He bitched up and called security on me. Tried to get me kicked off campus because I had a view that was different than his. So I dropped out of college. You know, and he went back because I wanted a professional job like an engineer or an accountant. But outside of that, I'm just going to say this, college is a waste of time, particularly if you're not going into a field like STEM. Now, STEM is not for everybody. But if you're going to be in the education field, you need to learn how to teach it. And see, you know, you got these Democrats, they don't want school choice. They want public school systems. So when blacks, and this is, I'm going to just put this toward blacks. When blacks start making it, the Democrats get pissed. Why? Because black people are the Democrats' voting bloc. And when blacks start thinking for themselves, the Democrats are always going to come back. And I'm talking about the white liberals, because that's who's stirring everything up. Yeah. Sorry what happened to Charlie Kirk. But I will say this. That's a fight. We got our own problems as black people. In fact, you want to know who hates, you know, you talk about blacks hating whites. You know what I deal with most of all? Blacks hating blacks. Because I'm going to tell you this. If I live in a neighborhood with a bunch of blacks and I did what I was supposed to do and a number of blacks didn't, you talking about what happened to Charlie Kirk? Same thing would happen to me, and it wouldn't even be a national news story. It might not even make the local news. Why? Because of jealousy. You have blacks that piss on other blacks for doing the right thing. And see, the white liberals really, in their minds, they don't believe educated blacks exist unless the educated blacks agree with them. You see how this is all tied together? Even educated black people don't have power. And we don't have power. We don't control anything. And this is what Chaotic Truth says. Black people have invented a lot, but we didn't have money for patents. So the only thing that blacks have been reduced to, three things: music, some other form of entertainment, and sports. And guess what? We're the ones going out there dancing our asses off, singing our asses off, and getting broken up. Yeah, they make money, but guess what? They still are not in the position to own anything. See, when it comes to capitalism, the reason why a number of blacks believe more in socialism than white people, because black people, they have the slave and the employee mindset. Because when you're black, and let's say you build a business in the black community, Again, you're going to have another black person. If you don't hook him up, he's going to kill you. And, something that's not mentioned, and this happened maybe 4 to 5 years ago. It's a black woman. I believe she was 21 years old, and it may have been in New York. So I have to bring this story back up. She went out and built a business, a hair business. Next thing you know, she got robbed and killed by other black people. So this is why we can't have anything. Because if you think about it, black people, they talk so much about white people, but black people hate each other. You look at the jealousy. It's in the family. Heck, there are a number of my family members I don't want to deal with because we're not on the same page, politically and economically. One big fiasco. And that old adage, blood is thicker than water. Yeah, well, it used to be. But if you have a different way of thinking from your other family members, they ostracize you as well. That's the problem. So basically, I'm just saying this. When you're black in this country, you have to look at yourself as an individual and even ask yourself, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a hooligan or do I want to be a nerd? And see, in the black community, we actually worship the guy in the streets. The guy in the street who's not doing anything, who has no plans on doing anything. We worship the person who's been in jail. We'll throw a party all day for the person who's been in jail. Meanwhile, a black who's an inventor, we call him lame. So, if you look at actually what's going on, we don't need to mess with anything over there with what the whites are doing. And you blacks, if you don't know about Charlie Kirk and you're only hearing things because many of you are low IQ anyway, shut up and stick with relationships because you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to the turning point. You don't know anything about what a real conservative is. The bottom line is a number of you blacks talk about conservatives, but I guarantee you, even if you're a liberal black, I can find parts of you that are really conservative because back in the days, black people were conservative. The only reason why they became Democrat was LBJ. Now, this is allegedly, okay? Allegedly, he said, I have every nigger voting 200 a Democrat for the next 200 years. That's what he said, allegedly. Yeah. Because from the LBJ days, and see, it was the Republicans who actually, with the Civil Rights Act of 65, the Republicans who came up with that. Now, when LBJ was a congressman back in the 50s, when Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, they wanted the Civil Rights Act then. Dwight did. He did. And if you look at it, look at all the shootings. Let's coincide something. All the killings of black people and the hangings of black people. All the killings of people that aren't like them. If you really close your mind, all the Jim Crow, you think about it. It's against conservatives because people think that it was just black people that got hanged during the Ku Klux Klan days. No, the Ku Klux Klan was actually established to stop conservatism. In fact, the Klan shut down a Republican National Convention in the 1800s. Nobody's talking about that, but it is true. And see, the reason why it may have seemed that the Ku Klux Klan went after blacks, because a lot of blacks were conservative. See, your Ku Klux Klan members, this is why we call people like Robert K. Byrd. He served in Congress. He was a Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. And the Ku Klux Klan, they were cowards. If you weren't like them, they would hang you. And they also on whites as well, particularly if they were conservative. That's the problem. In this country, yeah, it's good versus evil, but it seems to me that the evil people are on the left. You look at your countries dominated by people like Pol Pot, Fidel Castro, Lenin, Stalin. You even look at Putin. Genghis Khan. Fidel, I already said Fidel, Raul Castro, Hugo Chavez. All of these were dictators. And guess what? They killed millions of people. And you know what that millions of people was from? From communism, totalitarianism. Now, with individuals, and I gave you a definition, fascism is when you basically have the military take over everything. That's fascism. The military is backing up somebody who wants to be a monarch. And the reason why the Democrats are making Trump out to be a fascist is because Trump is actually following the law. He's actually using the Insurrection Act, I believe, of 1807, where to get some civility within a city for order, he's not using the federal military, he's using the National Guard. The National Guard functions both state and federal. Now, you know, the governor can activate the National Guard. And the National Guard was being used for presence. And you had a number of Negroes with their little pea shooters out there in Chicago talking about taking on the military. Well, let me tell you something. The young niggas out there, you don't have intelligence. And I'm not talking about mind intelligence. You don't have a CIA out there. You don't know navigation. You just through the streets shooting anybody you could shoot over what? Money that you can't get? But now I will say this, if you want to be a mortician, go to Chicago. You'll make a hell of a lot of money. If you want to be a mortician. Yeah, that was cool what I just said. But morticians get paid. And unfortunately, there are a number of individuals who go into the ground in Chicago, in Baltimore, Memphis, let me throw Philadelphia, Boston, Miami. Where are some other cities? Washington, D.C., even Wilmington, Delaware is in the mix now. Wilmington, Delaware. You got cities, Reading, Pennsylvania, Rochester, New York, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, Houston, New Orleans, Charlotte. Because, you know, we talked about that Charlie Kirk story. But I still don't hear much going on about that white woman being stabbed on that train in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I still don't hear much about that black woman, a 19-year-old black woman who was sexually assaulted and killed in Bowie, Maryland by an illegal immigrant. And we forgot those stories. And also on that day, too, when Charlie Kirk was hit, there was another school shooting in Colorado that day. That was overshadowed by the Charlie Kirk story. All of that is because of the left. And we have certain people of the left. It's the rainbow community. And they want people to like them. A number of these individuals, like this guy, he was associated with somebody of the rainbow community. He was indoctrinated. Now, they want to give Tyler Robinson the death penalty. Probably will get the death penalty. The bottom line is this. What else does the FBI have? I mean, I have to question, what happened to the security? I mean, when you have an event, you should have somebody on the roof. You know that this guy is a controversial figure, just like Trump was. Look, he didn't even have proper security when Trump was running for president. He had that woman who was a DEI hire trying to get Trump into the car and couldn't even get the gun out to do anything. She didn't need to be on that force. But that's what happened. And see, I believe this guy, he had some help. He scouted the building. He did, because it was well planned. He knew the schedule. See, this is what blacks don't do. They don't do enough research because they're reactive. So this guy was patient. He probably practiced. And see, we don't know how long this plan went on. Because usually a terrorist, if they're going to do something, they can take 2 years to do something. Because when they hit you, they want to do a lot of destruction. And they want to hit you when you least expect it. And this was well organized. And a lot of this is just like that individual 2 weeks ago who went in there and shot children. He was online. And we really need to get some individuals off of social media because they're getting a lot of information, especially from Discord, TikTok. And see, that's the problem. Now, again, it's not the first time it's happened. I mean, back in 1966, I believe it was at Texas A&M. We had a shooting at a college. And we didn't have Discord and TikTok and Facebook. No. Bottom line is this. I blame this on the 5 power conferences of society: media, government, jobs, religion, and education. Because what they're doing to these children, really, they're getting them young, they're getting them fresh. And the same thing happened in the 60s. So you always get the children when they don't know anything. Get them when they're docile. Because when they actually see something and have some experience with life, they're going to reject it. And see, it's probably told something by a professor in school who didn't like America. And it's something. You professors out there, you better be careful. Because you might have a surprise one of these. I hope it doesn't happen. But the education system, and again, Charlie Kirk was about having a discussion with children in the education system. Because when you go to college, college is an institution that gives you the most brainwashing. And then, of course, you have a lot of mental health issues. You have a lot of individuals who are, in my humble opinion, they might age, but they're not developed in the mind. They're still children in the mind. They still look at the world as a dream sometimes. And individuals don't understand that. I mean, so the mainstream media, all they're looking at is, well, this person came from a Republican family. Just because you come from a Republican family, it doesn't mean you have Republican views. No, the father was a deputy. And you do have a lot of mental issues. We're not really looking at mental health. We believe that some of these individuals are normal. They're not normal. Some of them need help. Now, I'm not going to lie, I had anger issues when I worked for PennDOT. I actually had the same thing in mind that some of these guys had, working for some good old boys. I wanted to go up and do the same thing, but I ended up getting some help. Sometimes you don't have individuals who are on your side who are listening to you either. Mental health is a big problem. You have a number of parents who shouldn't even have kids because they're trying to be friends with their kids. They're not teaching them anything. You have a number of women. And generally, a society can rise no higher than the morality of its women. Number of women in all communities who are raising men to be effeminate, soft. They see some of these men, black and white, because they were raised around an environment where it was nothing but women, they have to pick up a gun to prove their manhood as well. So you can even come from a two-parent household. But once you get out of that household, where else are you getting your influences from? Social media. Social media is a big problem. Everybody knows it. But individuals don't want to deal with the issue when it comes to social media. They really don't. Social media is a big problem in the United States. We have to get a better handle on it. Because if we don't, I mean, think about it. Ever since 1999, we've had a number of school shootings. Now, I know we talk about black on black crime, but a lot of your school shootings are coming from young white males and young white rainbow personnel. I don't really see anybody who's black going in there shooting up a school. I don't. But see, blacks out here, the white liberals, they're trying to make it about you because they're using you. A number of you vote Democrat, but a number of you need to wake up because they don't care about you. They want you to be poor. They don't want you to know anything. And see what the Democrats want. They want people who are low information because they're easiest to indoctrinate. See, when you can think for yourself and you know the strategy, well, it's going to be very difficult to put anything into your head. Now, of course, with the mental illnesses, some of these individuals were bullied. So I don't know the full background of this individual. and some of these others. But what I do know is they have some issues. And some of these psychologists out here, social workers, they're not very good either. Then you have the corrupt judges out here, lenient judges, activist judges. And basically, what's really going on out here, you just have a number of people out here who don't like Trump. They didn't want him to be president. This is why they trumped up a lot of charges. See, the Democrats really lied their way, and they're trying to convince people into believing what they say, but it didn't work. Because remember, it went at Trump as well, twice. And Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician. Now, did he have aspirations to become president? Maybe. Probably in 2040. But when you take somebody down, again, more of them will come. Because it's like a dandelion. You have a dandelion and you blow a bunch of seeds. That one dandelion, you destroy that one dandelion, and you just have nothing left but the stem. But guess what? Once all those seeds are flying all over the place, then you got more dandelions growing. That's what happens. It's even what happened to Kevin Samuels here. Yeah, Kevin Samuels was eliminated. David Carroll was eliminated. Tommy, you're on YouTube. They were big guns. But what happens? Those big guns end up multiplying. Why? Because they have a number of followers. And when you have followers who believe in what the influencer said, that influencer, even though now he's post hummus, it's going to be a martyr. And there are going to be people who are probably going to carry on that name. And this is going to be carried on into the midterms. Because right now, the right, if you look at everything, right now, the right has a number of people right now who can create some film and they can slam all the Democrats, all the violence. It's not on the right. See, the mainstream media is trying to make everything about the right doing everything, about the right who's fascist, when it's really the left. Again, the left doesn't want to hear anything because they don't have any policies. And the left believes that they can bully everybody into believing what they say. But it's going to backfire on them. An example, the Democrats have already done a lot of redistricting. Now, I was just watching Fox 59 News here in Indianapolis. They're talking about redistricting here in Indiana. Now, do they really need to do it? Not really, because my state of Indiana, it's already a red state. We already have, the governor is Republican. We have 2 Republican senators. The only place where you're really going to find a Democrat here in Indianapolis, you might find a Democrat in South Bend, Elkhart, Indianapolis. I know Lafayette has a Democrat. I believe, I have to check it out. Maybe Evansville, maybe Fort Wayne, and most likely it's going to be Bloomington. Why? Because IU is down there. That's where the main campus of IU is. But outside of that, everything here is run by Republicans. And it's always going to be run by Republicans. And that's what I'm saying. What we have to do on the right is just stay the course. See, What's happening with the left, they can't win in a ballot box, so what do? They got to cheat. They got to try to take out conservatives. I looked at a video today. There was a leftist that said he wants to take out any conservative who doesn't believe in men playing in women's sports. That's a problem. And so the Democrats want that deviance to be normal, and they want us to believe in it. They don't want Christianity. They're anti-Christian. They're anti everything that made this country right. Now, racism didn't make this country right. That's something that the white man did. But when it comes to creating a family, comes to having some morals and values, it's not what the Democrats want, because they're not moral people. They're deviant. And this is why the leftists, they want a Marxist system here. That's what they want. And see, the way they can bring their Marxist system here is they gaslight, they call the other side that's really doing what they're supposed to do, they call the other side the Marxists or the fascists, the Nazis. When in actuality, they're the ones who are the totalitarianists. But see, what they're trying to do is convince people, low information people, to be like them. And that's the problem with America. Low information people do vote. And when it comes to politics, this is something that we need to understand. Low information people are dangerous, and we know they're dangerous. But the bottom line is, too many of us don't think about that. Why? Because we're all in our feelings. We go along from day to day, and we don't pay attention to anything that's going on at all, because it's not that we don't care. Well, some of us don't care. And in social media, again, social media has blossomed into a ignorant fest. So a number of people who are on social media, they're not very smart at all, particularly if you're on TikTok or on Instagram. Now, like I say, even here on YouTube, there are a number of individuals out here who shouldn't even be doing any type of politics. And again, shout out to Ringo out there calling out New Breed. But you have a number of people out here who don't have anything else going on in their lives, so they want to get up here and they want to spew their vitriol and hate. Why? Because number one, they hate themselves. Like when New Breed was talking about Charlie Kirk's wife, calling her a Jezebel. Only time I ever heard that term Jezebel is for a black woman or a Negro bed wench who slept with a white man. So just because she wants to carry on her husband's legacy, and I found out that New Breed himself, and I didn't know it, because he used to be one of the biggest Hebrew Israelites. Now, I never trust the Hebrew Israelites. I never trust any of these so-called pro-blacks. I never trust any of these black feminists, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to do nothing but talk. They're not going to be on the front lines because they don't have any power. They're keyboard warriors. They're not trained to do this. I mean, Black Lives Matter. That was some lesbian shit. Because Black Lives Matter, they didn't care anything about men. And I read the website. You don't hear too much of Black Lives Matter. But you know, you didn't hear Black Lives Matter when it's illegal, killed that black woman in Bowie, Maryland. You didn't hear anything about the feminists. And also, where are the feminists when that woman was killed in Charlotte, North Carolina? Where are they? You don't hear anything about them. Why? Because the person that killed that woman was black. And the mainstream media didn't even want to bring that out. That's the hypocrisy of the Democrats. That's why the left in this country dangerous. They want power and they want to be able to control every aspect of our lives by authoritarianism. So this is why they're trying to convince the individuals through the mainstream media and education that we're conservative, that the conservatives are all fascists, which many of them don't even understand what fascism is. Fascism is using military to take over a country through a dictator. And if you think about it, that's something that Putin can do. But Donald Trump is not a fascist. But if you were a low IQ voter and you heard fascism, anti-trans, all this all day, and then you would hear all this bullshit coming from the left, and you would hear all this hate coming from the left toward the right, but actually it's the left with all the hate. And what the left is doing, they're trying to drum up chaos. And that's what they're good at. Because you have a number of individuals who are too stupid to look at anything. People like New Breed. We had baby mamas, but he was supposed to be a Hebrew Israelite. So now I don't trust religion. See, it's gotten into the black churches, gotten into the black religions. Jamal Bryant, he used to be a pastor up in Baltimore. They kicked him out, sent him down to Atlanta. Now he's trying to get in on it and pitch and says, well, don't look at Charlie Kirk like a Martin Luther King. Nobody was. Martin Luther King was actually dealing with civil rights, but he was dealing with some communism as well. Not like Malcolm X. But in the meantime, you have a number of ignorant people out here. And that's the problem. And that's what the left wants. The left wants people to be ignorant. Why? Because you can control the masses who are ignorant. But in the end, tell me what you think. Because when it comes to what's going on in this country, who are the ones that believe that they can use violence to intimidate the other side? Is it the left or is it the right? You be the judge and you tell me what you think in my comment section. And on that note, that is this commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out my second channel, the QCIS channel. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And here's information for the ones, if it's not about you, don't worry about it. If it's about you, you need to worry about it. And also, don't be jealous of anyone. Because if you are, if you're a hater, you need to improve. You need to listen to this as well. Always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. Also, before I go, when it comes to 401 Talk Zone radio show channel, you can find me on YouTube, X formerly Twitter, Truth Social, and Rumble. And when it comes to the QCIS channel, you can find me right here on YouTube, X formerly Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Until next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.